All right, so I'm going to entitle this video Reserve Again, which is, I've been on that end of the stick a couple times. We're going to be going over a reasons report, and the reasons report is generated by NavTech, and it will tell you why it is that you resulted in getting what you got. And sometimes if you are doing the wrong thing, that is frequently reserve. Now, NavTech has admitted that this is a rather binary and antiseptic looking report, but they're going to be developing something that's a little bit more user-friendly. Until that time, we are going to take a look at this reasons report. I'm Stefan from the Communications Committee GoJet Pilot Group. Along with me, once again, I do have Justin from the Scheduling Committee, the Scheduling Committee Chair with me. And Justin, what can you tell me about how to read this report, just kind of the nuts and bolts on it?
Yeah, so like Stefan was saying, the reasons report is not the easiest thing to read. And you know, we constantly get questions on this. Our big one to start off with is just right up here at the top where it says min window, threshold, and max window. So let's kind of talk about those. So a lot of people wrongly assume the min window is what actually the min credit is set to, and that's not what these actually mean up here. And we've already talked to NavBlue about actually rewording these up here. So the big one up here, that min window that we see is 82 hours. That's actually what the normal line was set to. So it was saying, hey, the minimum for a normal line is going to be 82 hours for this month. And they put it under the min window because they're saying, hey, that's the minimum that line's going to be for this month. So if you didn't have a min credit bid in, you fall under this normal quote unquote line or category or threshold area. And so then we kind of sidestep over to the right from there to that threshold. So this is what this NavBlue is trying to build lines up to for this month. And I believe this was for June.
That 85?
That 85. All this is actually set on the back end by the company.
Okay.
So the company is setting these thresholds, setting these minimum windows to meet after bids have already been submitted and everything like that. And that's something we run into quite frequently, and we're trying to work with the company to be able to kind of maybe try to figure out what it's going to be prior. We haven't got to that part yet with the company, but we're working very hard to get that information to you guys. So the threshold, like I was saying, that's what the system is trying to build a line to. So it's saying, you know, any pilot at this base, which I believe was a Newark, we'll call it the Newark captain. This Newark captain, you know, theoretically was trying to get to a line up to 85 hours. And if it couldn't get to the 85 hours, as long as it got over 82 hours, it awarded him that line. And we had the max window of 95 hours. That max window will never change. That is the max we're allowed to fly at the company. It's 95 hours a month. They won't ever change that max window, so that's why it'll always be 95 hours over there. So we might see a threshold number move, we might see a min window move, and that's all set by the company, and we're trying to work with them to where we'll actually have set figures on a month-to-month basis. So kind of moving down from there, we have our pre-awards. So this captain had looks like a reserve day that carried over into the June month, so that's why we see the zeros here. And then we come down to his current bid group. So his current bid group and his bid group number 1, we can see there's a whole bunch of information here. So it's saying, starting off, we had his bid group. We had his waive 2 days off in a row. That was honored. So he waived his contractual agreement to have 2 days off in between trips. And so the system honored that one. And then he said avoid pairings in Rochester. That was honored. And so, you know, like I said, unless it's a line in the sand, try to avoid the avoids, but he does not want to go to Rochester, so there it is. We see our first avoid, but it was honored. It didn't affect anything. So we see award pairings if any layovers are in Lexington or Northwest Arkansas. And we can see here that the system was able to give him 4 trips, equaling out to being about 17 hours and 40 minutes apiece. Then it talks about the senior bidders 8. So there was other trips that had these same layovers could have been worth more, but those were awarded to a senior bidder to
Really?
him.
Somebody else was bidding those Lexington and XNA overnights, and they took them away from me, huh? Eight guys and gals did that, huh?
So
wow.
they may have not specifically wanted the Lexington or XNA overnight. It could have just been those were higher credits, and that's how they bid it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you
They
do
didn't target it specifically.
Yeah. So
all right.
you were targeting it for the overnights.
For the name.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so we see that some senior bidders also were kind of bidding in that same kind of category. And then there was one trip that fell into this that he did not have enough days off in the range. So that one bid was thrown out, or that one pairing that could have been awarded to him was thrown out. A better language.
Oh yeah, we're looking at my reasons report, by the way. This is
Correct.
Yeah. It's like, hey, can we use yours? I'm like, yeah, sure, pull it up.
So it is Stefan's, and you know that's. We try to keep it as generic as possible, but yes, this is his, and you can kind of see, you know, as a junior captain in Newark, he was still able to get a line, and it's just like I said, it's all about how you bid. So, and then he was preferred off, you know, all these days, and he said, hey, if you can't give me these days off, L-Star next bid group, it honored it, and as an honor, it gave him the days off he wanted. And let's see, his last one, he just got, just to finish up to get him over that 82 hours, they awarded him one more. I believe it's a 3-day.
Yes, and that's actually coming in the next couple days starting. Yep.
So that put him over his 82 hours. The company set for him to get a line. So you notice the system itself did not go to any of his other bid groups. So you won't see any honored or, you know, not honored, denial mode, any of that. You won't see in any of here because all his lines, his 82 hours was awarded in his first bid group. So he got lucky. He got exactly what he bid for and was able to.
Better to be lucky than good.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of a basic understanding of what the reasons report is. It, like Stefan was saying, it's not the easiest to read, but when you kind of understand exactly with what it's saying, it becomes a little bit easier to understand.
All right, should we go into a why did I get reserve again thing?
I would.
Right,
we do have another one of why we got reserve.
All right, let's pull that up right here.
Okay, guys, so we kind of stopped for a quick second to grab this new reasons report of the reason why I got reserve. So as you can see, we kind of moved some bases around. Now we're in Chicago. This is a Chicago captain. So we can see the min window was a little bit different. The threshold was a little bit different. And obviously our max is still the same. So we can see this pilot had a training. So we can see that he had a carryover. He had a carryover trip. And then he had some training for a running total of 28 hours. So he had at least 28 hours in his schedule pre-awarded before any of his bids came in. Okay, and so we kind of come down here to his current bid. His current bid was he wanted June 3rd, 4th, and 5th off. So he wanted those 3 days off. He wanted pairing check-in time after 12:59, and then he put that avoid in there. So that avoid kind of came to bite him in the butt on this one. You know, because we see here he wanted trips less than 3 days. He was specifically asking for, you know, trips less than a certain amount. And the best line that the system was giving him was only 46 hours were the 3 trips he was able to get. And then his 28 on top of that. So that didn't get him anywhere close to the 77 hours he needed for a line. So unfortunately, that's why he ended up getting reserve. Also, what kind of came to get him was this 8 hours and 25 minutes. And if we come over here and we actually pull that pairing up, we can actually see it was a 4-day pairing, but since it started on the 29th over here, this is what's considered a carryover trip. So that the second half of this trip didn't actually fall within that bid month, so that time doesn't go for that current schedule. So that's what we kind of see an issue of. So that's why I ended up getting reserve, unfortunately. So that's a big thing we see is, you know, we see people kind of get in there with those avoids, and that's kind of what happens.
So yeah, so he added this avoid, which was a hard border, and clearly had he just like done something simple, like just had a bid that was a waive 2 days off, then that was it. He probably would have got a line, right? That,
or, you know, instead of having this avoid, he could have came back in here and said, hey, avoid pairings if they're less than 2 days. So that could have gave him a little bit of an option to maybe get a 2-day trip or a 3-day or a 4-day trip that kind of fit into that schedule a little bit better, because he could have just said L start next bid group or clear schedule start next bid group. It would have thrown these 3 trips out and it would have tried again. So, you know, he had that 28 hours of a carryover. That's a good carryover to have, but also having training in the middle of a month like he did, that can cause issues too. So that's when you can see, you know, waiving the 2 days, like you've said, Stefan, help out in these situations.
Yeah, so avoid are definitely, that's something to avoid. Avoid the avoids, and then also the avoid the clear schedule start next bid group. Avoid that as well. Is that right? To kind of just get as flexible as possible to get a line as soon as possible.
I wouldn't say the clear schedule start next bid group is something to avoid. It's just more of a, if you don't have something that has an L start next bid group, you're going to have to have something in there to clear your schedule or to tell the system to go to your next bid group. But the big thing we're seeing here, and with him of why he got reserve, is he had training in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
So, you know, this training went from the 15th to the 20th. So there's 5 days right there that that's off the table that he can't have.
Yeah. And adding to his unflexibility this particular month. Yeah.
And then he had those 5 days combined with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you know, gives him 8 days that are kind of be drawing in the line that, like, hey, I'm going to either need these days off or I'm going to have training on these days. So 8 out of the 11 days theoretically he could have had off are already kind of accounted for.
Yeah.
So if you don't waive those 2 days, or if you don't specify certain aspects of things, you'll run into a situation of why you got reserve.
All right.
Which is kind of a big thing. So a simple fix this guy could have done if he wanted a line, he could have put in there pairings, you know, greater than 2 days instead of 3 days.
Right, yeah.
And then he could have put a waive in there if he really wanted to waive his 2 days.
Yep.
Those were the big things. And also we talked about on a previous video that carry out or carry over. He could have put in there, like, he could have avoided a carryover trip to where, you know, we won't see this 8 hours. It would have been a normal trip. But again, he's running into this situation where the days he asked for, so we can see here the system gave him a trip on the 5th. He asked for the 5th off, so it wasn't able to award him, you know, the 5th that he wanted. So no matter what, it couldn't give him exactly what he needed. So some simple tips and tricks, you know, waive the 2 days if you need to, or
avoid avoids.
Yeah, avoid the voids, because he could have just put prefer pairings or award pairings, you know, greater than 3 days instead of the avoids. And so it would have tried to give you pairings greater than 3 days at a time.
All right. I think we've got this covered.
Yeah.
All right.